Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Robert Brown, president of the University of West Los Angeles, and today I have the honor and privilege of being joined by our very own Dr. Anthony Culpepper. Good afternoon, Dr. Culpepper. How are you?
I'm good, Bob. It's good to be with you this afternoon. I really appreciate the invitation to come and to have this fireside chat, so to speak.
Yeah, well, we're delighted to have you. And just for all of our listeners' information, people who are watching this webinar, Dr. Culpepper is currently serving as president of Los Angeles Southwest College, and he is the president of the board of directors of Los Angeles County Schools Regionalized Business Service Organization. Dr. Culpepper's long career of service to California education institutions includes working as COO and executive vice president of Glendale Community College. And prior to that, he served as the chief business officer of Bakersfield College. I'm very proud to also say that he is a 2022 graduate and recipient of a Juris Doctorate degree from our very own UWLA School of Law. Welcome, Anthony Culpepper.
President Brown, thank you so much for that. I don't even know who you were talking about. I don't even know who that person is.
Well, I wanted to go on to say that he is also a CPA. He has his EDD from Pepperdine University, as well as an MBA from Pepperdine MBA. So is there anything else that you can't do? How's your jumper?
As you know, President Brown, I think one of the areas of our background is the importance of education. And I just committed myself to being a lifelong learner. And UWLA has been so instrumental in important as bringing the capstone, if you will, to that journey. I don't plan on going any farther than this. To be able to have been part of the school and to be part of the program has been very important to me personally, to my family, and certainly I think as a people of culture and the backgrounds that we've come from, it's an opportunity to show that there's a pathway. There's a pathway where you can change your life, and it's about the choices that you make. And so I really appreciate the opportunity to sit here and have this conversation with you.
You know, Anthony, that's exactly the point I want to jump off on. You know, there are going to be people out there who will listen and see this recording of our discussion together this afternoon. And my hope was that it would be an inspiration to them to perhaps see us as role models, and more importantly, would ignite their beliefs in themselves such that they can also do what we have achieved. You know, very rarely do you see two people who kind of look like us carrying the title of president. And as you and I were jokingly saying off calendar, that role of president is kind of an inverted pyramid. And many times you're at the bottom of that pyramid, but nonetheless, many people aspire to hold these positions. What I would like to do this afternoon in particular is speak to those people who are out there who truly are at the bottom of the pyramid, in the pyramid of life, who are looking up from an internal standpoint of view to provide them inspiration that they can do it, from an external standpoint of view to have society be more supportive and aware of the struggles that people like you and I have to go through to get where we are now. People look at it, I'm sure you are subject to the same thing I am. People say, oh, you know, your president, you know, shows that anybody can do it. It is a really hard road. It's a really hard road.
Yes.
And so I'd like for you just for a moment to reflect on that yourself. You know, what was that impetus for you? You and I are two kids from the South Central, you know, neighborhoods. You know, I shared with you a little bit about some of my experiences. Tell us a little bit about your experiences and your background, and what was the impetus for you to achieve?
Absolutely. Let me start with my parents. My parents came from the South, came from Georgia, and they moved out here to California, Los Angeles in specific. And my father was looking for a way to try to make a better life for his family. I come from a family of 6 children, and I'm next to the baby. They call me the knee baby. Everywhere my mom went, I was on her knee. And the one thing about the knee baby is the knee baby is also the librarian of the family. Some people don't know that. Because the knee baby is always in every conversation. My father came out here and he was looking to make a better life for his family, and he developed a trade in metal polishing. He actually was working for a company, developed a trade, and opened up his own business to better himself and to provide for his family. He never finished grade school. He just had that trade. But he did some things that are unconventional, if you will. He played pool. He was a pool shark. He also was engaged in what we call booking horses. We come. This is the environment that we grew up in, and so we grew up in a neighborhood where people tried to make a way, and it was difficult then, and in many cases it's very difficult now because we're still facing a lot of the challenges that were being put before people of our background, being Black men and coming up in our neighborhoods. We were faced with a lot of challenges, and some of those challenges still exist today in different forms, but nevertheless they're still obstacles to keep people from progressing and moving forward. So I come from South Los Angeles. I'm born and raised there, and not far from Southwest College, where I'm now the president. I was in the streets with my comrades, if you will, seeing them die in the streets, seeing them die in prison, and I guess the stress of it all. I got to the point where when I wanted to change my trajectory, knowing that the only other alternatives that were in front of me was jail or death. And so I literally wandered on to Southwest College's campus after I graduated from high school. In high school in the Valley, my mother bussed us out to the Valley, thinking that was a better place for us to be. But after I graduated from high school, I wandered on to Southwest College's campus looking for a pathway to change my life, a different option. So it was an intentional choice that I had to make in the midst of everything that was going on around me that was that easily could have taken my life. It was a choice to say, hey, I have to do something different. I have to find a different way. So just as you did growing up in the inner city, facing all of those challenges back in your time and subsequently in my time, it was a very difficult process to come through. But when you start looking at the alternatives, it's important to know that you do have the strength to make a different choice, and you have to summon it with all that you have, and to go in a different direction, because the alternative is not even, to me at this point, it's not even something that I would have considered at this point, because I don't look good in orange jumpsuits, number one.
It's so funny you should say that. Our stories parallel so remarkably, even though we're perhaps a generation apart. People often ask me what turned me around, because even though I consider myself a pretty nice kid, up until about the age of 11 or 12, because I didn't have, my father in my life. My mother was distracted. I became, like most adolescents, very wayward. I really went down. I did a 90-degree from being a pretty good kid to, really going, the opposite direction. And people often ask me, well, what was that moment that really kind of brought you back?
Right.
And as I was sharing with you at one point in time, but again, akin to what you just said, at some moment in time when you're in the throes of South Central LA and all of the various dynamics that are going on, you have to make a conscious choice of whether or not you want to live or you don't mind dying. It's a conscious choice. You have to, when you see these kids out here in the streets, we can all condemn them for their illicit activities and for shootings and drive-bys. Nobody's condoning that, okay? But we condemn them. But understand that at some point in time, if you don't see any other alternative, and you know that the likelihood is that the activities that you're engaged in, potentially every moment could engage you in dying or going to jail. You have to all of a sudden, as a function of your own psychological welfare, accept that. And you have to accept dying. And there were some moments in my life where I engaged in some things, and I knew that they took me to the point where I would not be able to extract myself, and that dying or going to jail would be the only extraction for me. Right. And I consciously decided at that moment in time, not that I wanted to self-realize or self-actualize. I just didn't want to die. I just did not want to die. Yeah. And people don't realize what that means, the trauma and stress of that, which I endure to this day, the trauma of, what I went through, how close I came, and what it took. And that's what another people, once you make that decision, what it takes to really now turn your life around. And that's what I would like to share with any of our viewers or listeners, that it takes an intentionality, but it is also just taking one step at a time every day to do the positive things that are going to get you away from dying and going to jail.
Yeah. I mean, you helped me reflect on a moment where I was on the bus coming home from school, and I had, my blue jumpsuit on, or sweatsuit or whatever it was. And I had my transfer, the bus transfer in my hand, and had a few coins in my pocket. My brother was with me, and the bus stopped at a particular bus stop that we had to get off and transfer to another bus. And in that moment, some young men came running out of a video store, if you will. A video arcade is what we called it back then. But they came out, running out, and ran to the bus stop, and they saw us there. And there were other young kids with us at the time. They ran away, and my brother didn't run away. And I didn't want to leave my brother there by himself. And so I went back there and I stayed with them, and they pulled out a 9mm and put the 9mm in my chest. And, they said, give me your money. And I told them, I said, I have a few quarters or whatever. And I said, just let me keep my transfer. And even that was threatening to them, just to make the request to keep the transfer. But, but things turned out where they took whatever and they left. But at that moment, that event helped me to understand how fragile life really is, And I said to myself, I don't want to go down this road. I got to get out of here. That's not the life that I want to live. This blue, red, and whatever color area. It was very a very stressful time for people, for young men, especially young Black men, to grow up in those areas. And so the events that happen to us will either harden you to become part of the situation, or you can reflect on it and say, is there another option that I can take? And I chose the latter. I chose to take the other option, which was find a way to change my life and to better myself where I can get out of this situation. To your point, though, it takes an inner strength for you to say, that's what I'm going to do, because it won't be easy. It's not easy. You may make that choice, But then there's to stay with it. You know, it's to stay with it. How do you continue to go to school at night, or if you have to work during the day and go to school at night, or work during the day and go to school at night, and you have to stay with it, and it takes that drive where you say, you know what, I'm on a journey to change my life, and because the alternative has become unacceptable to you. The alternative has become unacceptable. I'm not going to die in these streets.
Right.
I'm not going to die. I'm not
literally,
going
literally.
to my life away.
A lot of people will take your words figuratively, but if you experience that, it is literal.
It is literal.
Let me ask this question. I'm gonna throw you a little bit of a curve just to let you kind of react to. And I know I suffer from this as part of my post stress trauma. Do you ever have survivor's remorse? Do you ever think about your colleagues, the kids you grew up with who didn't make it out, and you look at your life now because you have been persistent, but think back to those people that, you had that can of beer with on occasion, or, maybe, did other things, and they're now probably either dead or incarcerated, or living a much different lifestyle than you are. Do you ever suffer internally from trying to figure out, how did I get out?
Now those weren't part of the scripted questions, but take.
I like throwing curveballs at people.
You're throwing it, and the short answer is yes. You think back, and friends that were lost to the streets, friends that were lost to prison, because these were your friends. You had love for these individuals.
Let's stop it right there. Let me just, people don't get it. You did not know these people as criminals. You knew them as your friends who were just like you, with the aspirations to play baseball, basketball, all those various things. And then all of a sudden they got sucked in.
Yeah.
They got killed.
Right.
They got criminalized.
That's right. That's absolutely right. We, as you said, President Brown, we know them as friends. I'm going to call you Bob. I think I know you
please,
well enough to call you Bob now, right?
Right. Exact. Please. Please.
Yeah. So, what you said is right on point. We grew up with these individuals. These individuals were our family, and we looked at them as brothers and sisters. And for their life to be snuffed out and taken away in the street, you even today you think back and you say, I remember so and so and what we used to do. We sat on the porch and drank some Hennessy or whatever, or beers or whatever, and now they're gone, and many of them in their 20s. It's just a life that you'll never get back. It's just gone, and you have to try to move on from that. And then there are the survivors. You talked about survivor remorse. There are some friends that made different choices in their lives, and they look at you and act as somehow you've abandoned them.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry to interject, but but let me tell you, it's so funny because when I got accepted to law school, I really thought that everybody would celebrate me and support me, and all my friends all of a sudden took this attitude. Oh, you think you're too good to party with us now? They wouldn't invite me to the parties, which would hurt my feelings. They would not, contact me, regarding various social activities, because now I was in law school, and somehow or another they perceive me as wanting to be better than them or different than them.
Right. It's the dynamics of that change when you say to yourself, and as you mentioned earlier, literally, I'm not going to die in the street. I'm going to change my life. that change begins with, I can't let someone distract me and move me away from that, because if they choose to stay there, then that means that there's the probability and the potentiality that they can drag me back into it. And so you might find yourself having to make that decision, which is separating yourself intentionally from those individuals in order to try to keep moving forward. And as much as you love them, you know that if I keep going to that porch and that brown bag is there, I'm going to be enticed, right? I'm still on the porch, and that's going to drag me back in. And so it's an intentional decision that is not easy to make.
Let me share a story with you that, again, I'm hoping that the benefit of this conversation will go to those who are out there who are looking at us as role models, but I want to let them know just how connected we still are in terms of our experiences and our backgrounds, in terms of, trying to emerge from the streets, if you will, so that they'll know that we aren't apart from them, that they can do the same thing. But let me tell you a story, and I'm embarrassed to tell this story, but it's a truthful story, and I think it reflects on what we were just talking about. One night, I must have been about 17 and a half years old, and I was running around, we were going to parties. And so I went and I saw three friends of mine, three older guys. They were older guys. They were maybe in their 20s. And I thought I was, hanging out with these older guys, and I thought I was kind of cool, And so I get in their car and we're passing a bottle of wine among us, drinking and talking and, and so they started talking, and they were kind of talking in subdued terms, like they really didn't want me to hear, what they were talking about. And they said, we're going to meet tomorrow at so-and-so, and we're going to rob this liquor store. And I was sitting in the back seat, wow, I want to come, I'm young and stupid and, influenced and being really sucked into the street life now. And they said, no, we don't want you. You're too young. You're not going to come. I said, well, I'll meet you guys tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. I'll come and we'll all get together and we'll go to some parties tomorrow night. And they all said yes. We all parted, and, went our separate ways. Next afternoon, I drove up to their houses, and there were a bunch of people milling around outside. And I walk up, and people are crying and kind of, delirious and hysterical. And I'm like, what's going on? They said the three guys that got killed that afternoon in the robbery, what happened was they went into the liquor store. They were in the process of robbing the clerk there in the store, and he pulled out a gun, shot one of them. The other one tried to pick him up, and the clerk, as he was carrying one of the guys out, the clerk came behind him and shot him and killed him on the spot. And then they actually captured the third one, all three of which I had been drinking with the night before.
Wow. Yeah.
True story.
Yeah.
True story. And it just reflects back on how fragile, as you said, life is. Had I been allowed to go with them as I wanted to, the likelihood I would not be here today.
Yeah. I mean, that brings us, to the thought about why it's so important that we stay connected to the community, because the decisions that we made doesn't make us special. We're fortunate.
That's right.
We're fortunate. It doesn't make us special. We're fortunate. And to be able to come back to our communities and be able to share the story that you just shared, Bob, and to share my experience and that I share with the young people all the time is to let them know the fragility of life should not be taken for granted, because at any moment the wrong decision could put you in a situation where you can't come back from it. And so, you know, when I was asked to come to Southwest and to take over the presidency, it was a calling for me, because it was an opportunity for me to come back to the community that I grew up in and be able to share these stories that you and I are sharing with each other and say, look, I'm in this role, but I'm not special. I'm fortunate. And
Gosh, I second that.
I'm here to share with you that if somebody would said what I'm telling you now, my life could have been probably different earlier than that point. And so, you know, I think it's so important that what you're doing and getting this information out to those who are interested in it, and to be able to share it with them and to let them know there are decisions that you can make that can change your life and put you on a different trajectory. And the earlier you make that decision, you miss those points that you and I were fortunate to get through.
Exactly right.
Because either one of us could have been one of the statistics in that moment.
No question. There's just no question. Shifting a little bit, Anthony, tell us about how LA Southwest College can help people to make that shift, to change their trajectory.
Well, as you know, I mean, Southwest College was born out of social chaos. When you look at the Watts riots, after that event occurred, there was more energy put behind having an education, an institution of higher education in South Los Angeles. Odessa Cox and the other social activists in the community moved that effort forward, even though the actual thought and the ground and the work began in the late 50s. But with all the social unrest going on and all the other issues that were happening, the groundbreaking for Southwest College didn't happen until 1967, which was after the Higher Education Act of 1964, wherein written in the Higher Education Act was actually the legal language that says predominantly Black serving institutions would have resources at the federal level, right? But Southwest College wasn't in place yet because of all the racial and social issues that were going on. They were being blocked. But after the Watts riots occurred, people were more motivated because they recognized that the social ills, the economic ills, the homelessness, the lack of basic needs being filled in the community was so overwhelming that it began to cause negative interactions between law enforcement and the people. And so, you know, all of this turmoil was going on. And then we get someone saying we have to do something. And that's Odessa Cox and the social and the other social activists. And we get Southwest College. I say that to say this. Since the Higher Education Act was speaking to the predominantly Black serving institutions, which now become HBCUs, one of the things that Southwest College has done with the support of the Board of Trustees of the Los Angeles Community College District is for them to pass a resolution with the affirmation of our Chancellor, Chancellor Rodriguez, Dr. Rodriguez, he's our Chancellor, affirm that Los Angeles Southwest College will be identified as a historical Black college in the Los Angeles Community College District. That's a huge deal, because what it does is it gives us the opportunity to make an argument at the federal level and say, look, Martin Luther King said that justice delayed is justice denied. Southwest College was on in the planning stages to become a historical Black college, or a college that could qualify under the 1964 Higher Education Act. But the social ills that were going on at the time blocked and prevented the college from becoming from laying the groundwork and having that class of 600 students. The first class was 600 students graduate from the community. And so Southwest College now, after these many, many years, is now making the argument that we should be grandfathered in to the Higher Education Act because justice delayed is justice denied. And we're being denied, Southwest College is being denied the access to those federal resources because of the social ills of the time. Now, with that being said, what can Southwest College do now? It is still the city that sits on the hill. It is still that light that was created in 1967 that says to the community, you can come to college free. You can get an education. Even if you didn't get your GED, you can come to Southwest College and get your high school credentials so that you can continue to pursue a better pathway for your life. Southwest College is in that position, in that community since 1967. And so, you know, we are on the pathway of saying there are no excuses. There are only choices. There are no excuses. There's only choices. And Southwest College is a choice, just as UWLA is a choice. The higher education and the doctoral and the master's programs that UWLA provide is just a continuation of this effort to magnify the importance of education. If there's going to be social justice, there must be education, because that's why the 1964 Act was created. And if there's going to be education, there must be student success. And if there's going to be student success in social justice, there must be Black student success, because that's the foundation of all of this. And certainly our family, our Hispanic, Latinx, Latino family, the Hispanic serving institutions are just as prominent in bringing all of us together in an atmosphere of education to rise all boats, so that we can come together and build our neighborhoods and our communities. And so Southwest College is there for that community to see that we can come together. We can have a shared experience, get to know each other beyond our skin tone, and get to know each other as people. And if we can do that and send those individuals back out into the community, we can change those households. And if we can change those households, we can change those neighborhoods. If we can change those neighborhoods, we can change the city. If we can change the city, we can change the state. We can change the state, we can change the country. We can change the country, we can change the world. And the work that you're doing, the work that I'm doing, is about giving that choice. No excuses, but make it better choice.
You know, I'm so glad that we captured all of what you just said, so beautifully articulated. I'm going to tie it back to something you said earlier that really makes the difference. Your father, you said, did certain things that were just about making a way, just surviving, just doing those things, those activities that people who are oppressed are relegated to make a way, to survive, to subsist, to try to have some dignity and integrity in their lives while they provide for their families. We are going to change that. We are going to change that. And as you just so articulately, indicated, the things that we are doing, both you at your school and what we're trying to do at UWLA, are to change it so that people just don't make a way, that they have a proven skill set with which to go out in the world and do better than just survive. To now, with integrity and dignity and power and strength, make a better life for themselves and their families, to change the oppression. I can't talk with you for too long because I think we both kind of, get into such a fervor because we believe so strongly We dedicated our lives to this, literally and figuratively. Perhaps part of what has happened to us at the outset, as we were talking about, is a function of preparing us for where we are now and making us dedicated and committed to it. Because it's hard.
The alternative, as you said, it's hard because the alternative is real to us. It's not just a story.
Right.
It's real to, we were there. It's real to us. And so I think that's where our passion comes from. But not only does our passion come from that place, our compassion comes from that same place.
Right.
And so, I'll share this with you. And, when I drive the freeway and I'm coming to the campus, every day I ensure I drive through the community. I don't go around the community and find the scenic route where I can miss all the stuff, stay on the freeway and, drive down the streets that don't have, certain elements on it. No, I drive through the community. And you know why? Because it reminds me of why I'm doing what I'm doing. It reminds me that I'm doing something to be proactive so that the generation that's after this person can make a different choice. And if I can reach that person, then we'll do all we can to help that person better themselves as well. But it's a reminder that, our lives were spared not to be wasted, but to be sacrificed for others. And the life that we live now, the things that we're doing now is a work of service. We were talking about that pyramid earlier. Shepherd leadership and servant leadership is how I framed my life. And I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but just the relationship that you and I have built, we have that common spirit of where we know we have to give back to our community because we weren't taken down by the ills of where we came from. We were spared that we may help the others make better decisions. And that's the way I think of my life, because I could have easily been one of the statistics in jail, dead in the street, easily. But I look at my life as one that was spared, and not to be wasted, but to be sacrificed and given back for those who want to make a better decision and need an example to help them see. We're just like you. We're nothing special.
It's so funny. Today, I've had 2 conversations, Anthony, with various people who have said to me, you're the president. You can tell us to do anything we want. And I said meaningfully that as a president, you just don't take the attitude that you can tell people to do anything, capriciously.
Right.
That as a servant leader, you do want to take into consideration the interests of all involved as a servant leader. I see myself, I will admit to you, and this is for posterity, that I still sometimes I hear people say President Brown, and I feel a little uncomfortable bearing the title, admittedly.
Wow. Yeah.
Because of where I come from, and this is 25 years of being called that from almost everybody. I still don't look at myself that way. Wow. And I still have, a discomfort with the title. I understand the role, and I love the role in terms of, what we want to achieve for our societies. But, I see myself serving society. And I truly mean that. I like you know, obviously because of the impacts of the oppression on us as black people, we naturally see it more so through that lens. But I see it as a humanity issue more so. I see it as an issue of I think the illusion of the artificialness of external appearance is a tool of oppression. I think that differences like that are tools of oppression. I think it's humanity. And I think that my overall interest is in addressing the needs of those who would otherwise be oppressed. The reason why as you know, I was a corporate lawyer earlier on in my career. And the reason I made the segue into academia, accidentally, by the way, it was not intentional, it was really accidental, I'm sure was because this institution met my passion of wanting to give back to society in this manner. The educational empowerment that addresses oppression, that addresses ignorance, that gives people tools, as you said, to make meaningful choices, to change their lives.
Right.
For me, that was everything. That's one of the reasons why I'm so proud of the University of West L.A. We have our bachelor's program, our master's program, our JD program. We're getting ready to add on a doctorate of business program, all serving from an opportunity mission standpoint of view. That's what a lot of people don't understand about UWLA is that we serve an opportunity mission very similar to what you do at LASC. We provide an opportunity, in particular those who might not otherwise have that more traditional, conventional path to participate and take advantage of the opportunity.
That's right.
And that was both of our callings, I think.
No, I mean, that's so powerful in how you frame that. The idea that wearing a title, I find, and when you said that you still sometimes feel uncomfortable with being called that, I started reflecting on that immediately because, for years we've been climbing up through the ranks, trying to better ourselves, and we don't even have time to cover all that conversation, because to be accepted among those who you would consider your equals, if you will, because of your background, and they still don't look at you as their equal. Doesn't matter how many degrees you get, doesn't matter how many institutions you run, doesn't even matter when you become president. But then all of a sudden you get this title and you hear it for the first time, somebody says President so-and-so. And I remember when I first became president at Southwest College and the chancellor introduced me, he said, I want to introduce to you Dr. Anthony Culpepper, the president of Southwest College. I actually paused for a moment and I said to myself, am I worthy of this? It's been 30 years, Bob. 30 years climbing this process and arriving at this point and hearing that. And I'm sitting there, I'm saying to myself, am I worthy? Have I done enough? Have I proven myself? I had to reflect on that for a moment, because just at this moment, I realized that my uncomfortableness was not necessarily in the title, but whether or not people will see me,
accept
me. So how you frame that was is so powerful, and I think that what I wanted to share is that I had to become comfortable and be in my own skin. The title doesn't define me. I define myself irrespective of the title. Right. The title allows me to do things, but the title doesn't define me. And what
That's
I'm
one of the reasons why I oftentimes will tell people, just call me Bob. Part of that is because I want to remind myself of who I am.
yeah,
I want to feel comfortable that I am who I am in this role, even without the title.
right. And that's yeah, I can't even say much more to it. I mean, you framed it so wonderfully. It just had me to reflect on that, that it's important that and I'll just say the humility of being in the role. The humility. You don't let if you let the role define you, it'll take you in a different direction.
That's right.
It's the humility, you know, because now you become a servant leader of people, you know, and a shepherd leader. And someone says, "Oh, you're a shepherd leader." Yeah, but do you realize what a shepherd does? Right? Because a shepherd is providing for those sheep, protecting those sheep. I mean, you know, shepherd leadership doesn't mean you stand out front and everybody takes care of you. No,
That's right.
it's actually the reverse. And so,
Exactly the reverse.
yeah,
And it has psychological, physical, mental implications to it.
that's right.
That people don't understand that where you're so busy many times looking after the interests of others that your own self needs many times go neglected.
Wow. Wow. We can talk about that. I don't know how much more time did you have for us? Because it's almost an hour.
I think Daryl is sitting behind us, kind of saying these guys need to wrap this up. They probably could do, and maybe what we need to do is another segment, because
Yeah.
I suspect that for uh, you know, the audience, if you will, sitting through more than an hour's worth of our conversation, as
Yeah.
hopefully engaging as it is, becomes a little bit much. But I just want to say, I could talk to you all day long. I can on or off the record. And you know what? You actually give me comfort, because the corollary of the psychological aspects of trying to figure out whether or not you're worthy, whether or not there's actually a term for it, where imposter syndrome.
Mm.
We can't help but have imposter syndrome. Am I imposter? They're gonna know I don't belong here. Okay, that's part of what when I went to my law school. I first year I had, in addition to struggling with the enormity of the environment and the complexity of the environment, I had to struggle with, am I worthy of being here? Am I, when are they going to find out that I don't really deserve to be here? When I took on the president of this institution, I would go to some of the accreditation events, and I would say to myself, when are they going to find out that I'm an imposter? And it's so funny, because I recently went to, when I took over UWLA, they had 5 presidents in 6 years, I believe, before me.
Wow.
They had churned through a lot of presidents. And when I went to one of my first accreditation visits, meetings, they said, well, there's no stability in leadership at UWLA. And it's so funny, I just recently went to one of our accreditation visits, and I probably had more tenure than any other president there by twice the length of the longest tenure of anybody even close to me.
Yeah.
25 years now at the helm of this institution. So, for those of you, I know we need to wrap up now, but I'm sorry. He's saying we got to answer a question. Oh,
You want to talk about Juneteenth?
yeah, yeah. Speak. Do me. Speak to the significance of Juneteenth.
Oh, wow. I mean, so I'll skip the historical significance, but you know, the fact that somebody has to come along and tell you that you're free, I know that's a pregnant pause, but there's a lot in that, right? They have to come tell you that you're free, and knowing that we're about to celebrate again and embark on this wonderful holiday. I'm hoping that we get to the point where we get to the point where we're not dependent on a holiday to know that we're free. And we have to become free in our own selves to know that my life, I can do what I will and by choice with my life. Even if they cage my body, they can't cage my mind.
That's right.
So freedom is a frame of mind. Because if your freedom is based on me putting you in a cage, then that freedom is short-lived and very fragile. But if I'm free in my mind, you can never cage me. I will always be free.
I believe Nelson Mandela said something very similar at one point in time, and it is about our mindset. The corollary to that, I wrote an article back, I believe, in right after the riots, L.A. riots. I wrote an article in which I said that the ghetto is not a territory, it's a mindset. Okay, we have been talking in terms of the civil insurrection after Rodney King event, in terms of territories,
right?
But the ghetto, if you will, that impoverished mindset is not a territory. I mean, is not to me a territory. We often identify it as a territory, but the reality of it is really about a mindset. And I think relating back to Juneteenth for me, what I draft on it is, a day where hopefully we can start overcoming that mindset of being imprisoned, of being oppressed, of being put into this, impoverished mindset.
Yeah, I know you want to end, and I'll just make this last comment. Education is that key to freedom.
That's right.
It's that key,
that's right?
And that's I honestly believe that's why you and I probably pursued it.
No question. Let me just also, I know we keep, but I just want to share this with you. I have had the good fortune in my 25 years now at the helm of UWLA to now, and you and I talked about this, and this is going to be one of the real ways that we come together as an institution. And I'm having a meeting, just so you know, tomorrow on this. But what we don't understand, we understand it, but we, especially in the inner city communities, in our impoverished communities, we understand how powerful a tool education is, because all over the world they get it. All over. I just got back from India, and we went to India, and they made a public announcement about us interviewing potential students, and we had 300 students and families that came to the hotel where we were, and we interviewed them in 2 days. We interviewed over 300 families and students who wanted to come to Los Angeles to pursue their education. We've been to China. I mentioned to you that I want to take a delegation from Los Angeles Southwest College, along with yourself, to China. I'm actually going to be making plans for that tomorrow. I'm meeting with the president of Theos University tomorrow. He's coming to L.A. We are going to take a delegation from your school to China so that we can do that cross-cultural exchange. So again, we expand the awareness of people to see how, the idea of humanity, is painted in a whole lot of different ways, but humanity is just humanity. It's practiced in different ways, but it's still just different blends of humanity. and how we love each other, how we connect with each other, how we support one another. That's really what I think that you and I are trying to ultimately achieve. And I think that's one of the reasons why June 19th is so important in having this national holiday.
Yeah. Well, Bob, I'm certainly looking forward to having this conversation, continuing this conversation, live or live or in person, however we can do it, online, offline, because I think it's important that
it's critical.
we continue to have this conversation.
It's critical, man. Hey, I love you, man. Thank you so much.
You're
for
absolutely
all
welcome.
you've done for us and for being a proud part of our family. Like I said before, I'm going to be setting up tomorrow. I'm meeting with the president of CIOS University. I'm going to take you and a delegation of students from your school to China for probably a couple of weeks and let people's lives be changed by that occurrence.
Well, we're certainly looking forward to that, and our partnership as we build our partnership together. There's going to be a significant impact made on this community. You'll be surprised. Some of the students who come to Southwest have never been outside of that community. And
I on that note, I just want to close on this very powerful, hopefully poignant, and Anthony, 10 years from now, we look back on this conversation, and I hope that we'll look back on it with reflection to the lives that have been changed as a function of what people have experienced through this engagement this afternoon. For us, for me, what's important is that had we not had this engagement and not been able to affect those lives, how sad I would be had that not occurred. One of the things that I look back and, in my struggles as president of this university over the years where things were really, really, really difficult, really tough, as a private institution, there have been times when, we hit some strong roadblocks. Fortunately, right now, we're really strong. Things are going good. But there were some tough times where I almost didn't know if I wanted to continue.
Wow. Yeah.
I almost didn't know if I wanted the institution to continue. And when I reflect back now and hearing stories like people as distinguished as you, seeing UWLA as the right place for them, I would have been such a coward had I folded. I would not have been able to look myself in the mirror, honestly, had I given up.
I'm looking forward to part 2 of this. I'm looking forward to part 2 of this. We can pick up right where you left off.
That will be part 2, my friend. Listen, God bless.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Take care, man. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.